I'm here with
Start
Dr. All right, all right. I'm here with Dr. Sasha Lessin and his wife, Janet Lessin, who is an author of many books about the Anunnaki. He's going to present some slideshows with about the Anunnaki with us today. He is also was a co-host on an internet radio show called Revolution Radio, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And today, all we're going to do is learn
Well,
about the
it's called
Anunnaki.
Aquarian Radio. It was called Aquarian Radio on Revolution Radio.
Okay, okay, okay. You know what?
Yeah.
Aquarium. Okay,
Yeah. Aquarian. Like
Aquarium.
Aquarius.
Okay, okay. You know what? And I'll do the introduction.
Just
Um,
yeah, we ain't doing no revolution.
all right, all right. Hey, you know what? Let's just jump right into it. I got
Right?
Dr. Sasha Lesson here and his wife.
Yes,
he's,
here
go-
we are.
he's going to teach us a little bit about the Anunnaki, and he's going to present some wonderful slides. So, Dr. Sasha Lesson, what
Thank
could you tell us about the
Well,
Anunnaki?
first of all, I want to say thank you very much for having us on
Really?
your
Oh,
show.
yes. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
and we're very excited to be here.
Oh,
And
thank you. This is an
Sasha
honor.
told me he met you on Facebook.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
very excited about your posts.
I really, really do appreciate that. That's, you know, I was telling him earlier about 6 to 8 months ago, I hit him up on Facebook to ask him for an interview. And that's when I basically started my podcast and got really into it. So yeah, this is an honor to have you guys on my show. It's one of my first real presentation. So of course, this is going to be, a wonderful show because I got the best with me right now, like I told you earlier. So I appreciate it. I really do appreciate
That's
it. Thank you.
Well, let me put
Thank
it
you.
the
Thank
other way too. I've been reading a lot of your stuff, Tyrone, on the internet, and I just you wrote under various names, and every time it was a turn on. Wow, this guy's really thinking
you.
about the same things and caring about the same things I care about, and you know, not just the old ancient stuff, but how to make it right now. And most importantly, the bullshit of racism that it
Yes.
just fully denies all the information that we have about how we've been multiracial from the get-go,
Yep.
and and you know, and also about how real retribution has to be made so that the people that are living off of the forced labor of other people and their
Right.
institutions share with everybody whose descendants have been downgraded. It's like such basic things for human beings. And I know, Tyrone, you feel those things as passionately as I do.
Yes.
And it's time also to listen to the Native American elders because they know so fucking much more than we
No,
do. And
keep
you
this
know,
is this
shut
is
up
this
and
this
listen.
is a good. This is good. I like the organic presentation. I like that because a lot of people put on a front sometimes, and sometimes you got to be one way in some situations, another. I want people to be comfortable with what they share because that's how you get the honesty out of them. I mean, if you're telling people you can't say this, you can't do that, they're trying to find substitution for words or things to make it sound better. But I want that. I want the realism, and I want you to tell me how it is because I'm here to learn. That's what I'm here to
So
do.
am I. I'm here to learn from you too.
We're
I
all
appreciate
okay. So
it.
I have not seen this slideshow. Dr. Lesson he works on something every night. He's up all night.
Really?
Uh, he's got weird patterns. It really bothered me first got married. He's like, "What's wrong with this man? Is he a vampire?" But I let it go. So he gets up at the weird. We fall asleep and we fall asleep. We wake up and we wake up because we're both retired, but we're not
Right.
retired. We're doing this work. This is the work we wanted to do all our lives. We had to
Right.
go do other jobs, but I enjoyed everything I did because we're the sum total of everything we've experienced in our lives, and it's all perfect.
Right.
And
Right.
we're here and we studied with he wants to give a little background. We studied with Zechariah Sitchin when he was alive and walking this planet. He
Mm-hmm.
died in October 1990.
Yep.
uh, I
I
had
love his books. I do love his books. He gave me a lot of information. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are transitioning. A lot of our elders and the people who brought us like this first generation information, like Eric Von Daniken's still with us, but the people started back in the 50s and 60s. we see accelerating, they're passing
Mhm.
exponentially. It's really, so we got to get this information out here, you know.
Pass the torch to me. I'll take it and run with
Pass the torch. Although,
it.
if you study the Anunnaki, we have physical immortality. And
Right.
if the powers that be let it go, and there are actually some billionaires that are starting to throw some billions into this extreme longevity. We have the potential of living hundreds of thousands of years, just like the Anunnaki.
Mhm.
Because, but eventually in this series of slides, videos, I'm going to show that we are all Anunnaki. It's
Okay.
in our DNA, it's in our genes. It goes back. We all go back to Africa, to the Yankees' mines,
Mhm.
and the first genetic experiments creating Homo sapiens. So that's
Yep.
just summarizing.
That's what's written exactly in the ancient text. Exactly what you just said. That's what's written in there.
And,
It's,
and every day, you know, we're finding lidar showing the ancient ruins, and we're doing more digs, and so we're getting our, you know, we're getting it just in time for more floods, so we don't get buried again.
On that point, I just would really like to say that my studies show that way before Adam and Eve, the race was uh, concocted on Earth by geneticists.
Mhm.
Our ultimate ancestors from the Lyran group, when they were, some of them were blue and some of them were brown and some of them were white, and there was a variety of skin colors, and it was just a minor interesting thing that from the get-go we've been everything else.
Yeah, and it
And
makes sense.
there
If it,
couldn't have been a brown baby, which was the first baby in our species, if it wasn't within the genes of the Anunnaki to have
Mhm.
brown also.
Right.
It had to be. That's the only way that you could have had that manifestation of a
Mhm.
brown baby. There had to be from both sides. That's
Mhm.
how it is. We've been brown and white and blue for a long time.
Mhm.
You know.
Yep. And that's amazing you say that because this this world for some reason like I don't know if you've seen some of the posts that I put. Like, I'll share a book of what I'm reading at the time or rereading at the time, and I shared many books, and I shared what I've learned from it and stuff like that. And just recently, I shared a book, When the World Was Black, and a couple of people were saying it's all about racism and stuff like that. And I was like, this is not what this book is about. It's actually telling the history of, just like you just said, the first brown baby. So uh, I, for some odd reason, a lot of people just have their own beliefs and their own ideas of something. And whether you hit them with something that could be possibly, a fact because it was written in ancient times, some people don't want to believe that. And it's just weird because we're fighting so much of who we are instead of trying to survive on this planet as long as we can. We fight amongst each other so much. I've been deployed 4 different times, 2 to Iraq and 2 to Afghanistan, and it's just crazy the stuff that we fight about, and we're all the same. We're all deeply down in the same. Like I said, my mother's German and Turkish, and my father's African American. And I found out my father's side came from Nigeria. So it's just like, and my kids, my wife is Puerto Rican. So, my kids have that and being Puerto Rican. So it's just a mixture of everything. And we're fighting over, just weird stuff, I guess.
I did this. Let me get the card. It's a different genetic test. I've done most of them. This one goes back 50 generations. It's
Hmm.
called, here I do, cryogenics.
Hmm.
And I have all continents. You know, I look like I'm blonde hair, blue eyed European, right?
Hmm.
And that's predominantly if I climb up my tree,
Hmm.
mostly. But I've got Puerto Rican, I've got Peruvian, I've got
Oh, wow.
Chinese, I've got, because we've been traveling. And what do we do when we go to strange foreign lands? We like to mate with the people that are local. We bring back husbands and wives, and we've been doing that. We've been what do you call it, seed-faring species
Hmm.
all along.
Yep.
And so the proof is in your genetics. Get
Yeah.
your genetic test,
My,
and you
you're
go,
right.
wow, I'm everything.
You
I have
know,
every continent on the planet in my DNA. So I'm a human being. I'm everything.
That's what I love. I'm a human being. There you go. Yeah.
Actually, I'm
That's-
extraterrestrial too. So we can get into that as
Oh,
well.
I'm telling you, I want to continue these. I mean, you said he doesn't sleep. I don't sleep at night either. We could get on here and just talk. We could just talk. I know you 6 hours behind me, but hey, like I said, I don't sleep either. So we could get on here and just, hey, I'm quick to come up with some quick questions. And like I said, I'm gonna buy your book. You said the Anunnaki evolution of gods, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm
one.
gonna buy that one, and I want to read that one, and hopefully I'll get a second
Hold
interview
off a
with
few
Chris.
days. I'm uploading a new cover
Mhm.
because the old one, you know, when you upload, it looks fine on the screen,
Yeah.
and then I finally ordered my books. I go, oh, this is blurry. I don't know. It's fine. So I went back to my graphic designer and I said, can you fix this, please? It's really blurry. So anyway, he gave me another one. So I've got to get it uploaded. He hasn't given me the final. It's a process when you do books. But
We should do a show
wait,
on it.
let's do the show now. People don't want to
Okay.
hear us.
All right, well, just go ahead. Start with the first slide. I mean, I've already introduced you, Dr. Sasha Lessin, and his wife Janet Lessin. Hey, we're gonna have a good show today. I mean, a good presentation, and many more hopefully after this.
Oh, we do a whole series.
Cool.
Okay, so he wrote things and I haven't even read it. So okay, so we start with Zechariah Sitchin.
Hmm.
Okay, so one of the things I'm doing, ladies, is I am owning who I am as an immortal being, because we're all immortal, having human experiences. So one of my embodiments, one of my incarnations, or I think that we simultaneously we're multidimensional beings. That's what my studies are showing, that we simultaneously exist in many realms, planets, dimensions, vibratory frequencies, planets, and we can access that, especially if you do meditation or
Hmm.
religions or something. You can access who you are as an eternal being. But one of my embodiments is, I'm a fractal of Nima, and
Hmm.
Nima is the, the creatrix of humanity. She's the one, the birth mother goddess, and
Right.
she's the geneticist.
Slow down, honey.
I'm excited. Okay,
I'm excited too.
you gotta slow me down.
No, just
Oh, slow down. I get excited.
I'm the same. I'm telling you, this is my first one. I got you guys here, and this is natural. I love it. I'm telling you, I really
okay.
do love
We cannot work something. We're very natural. Okay, so all right, let's see what he called this. This show is called Anunnaki. Lyran refugees from planet Nibiru colonized Earth, created us hybrid Earthlings, settled
Us.
them,
Oh no, no.
settled them us in Sumer, Iraq after Noah's flood. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover on this one. Um, and so we're going to talk about the Lyran. So the original battle was the Dracos versus the Lyrans, and
Okay.
that's the original polarity dichotomy. Existence expresses itself on polarity, right? So you have
Hmm.
white, black, good. So it was Lyran, Draco. The Lyrans were actually humanoids. They were the Dracos. The Dracos were called reptilian.
Yeah, that's I was gonna ask that.
They're also the dragon. So we have reptilian DNA in our on these in these Homo sapiens forms. We have the reptilian brain. So
Right, right.
okay, so the and be careful, don't demonize the Dracos because we are they as well. Everybody wants to demonize things,
Yeah,
black or
that
pink,
that
but
is true.
we are all the extraterrestrials. We have their DNA within us as well. So the Lyrans, Pleiadians, Martians, Venusians, Garthians, and reptilians came to Earth before the Nibiran Anunnaki who made us. So this is prehistory before the Anunnaki came to the Earth 450,000 approximately years ago. Is this
Right.
me reading you?
This is you. This is see. It's still under
Okay.
your cue. It's important.
Okay, so the source validity and reliability of the slides may vary based on the era shown. So,
Okay.
so Dr. Lessin right now has a 400 plus slideshow, but we had to break it down into 70
Okay.
because that like 5 years to me. No, we would do that.
We gonna go through all of them, Doc. We gonna go every single one of them. We gonna do about 20 episodes if we can.
We can't. We're gonna do it until we drop over. That's all I can-
I think there's a lot of value in having a sequence where things go in a chronological kind of order that people can follow, because that's what it is. The story builds upon itself.
Right, right.
So this first set of slides, this is about the
You
Galactic
brought the
Federation.
you brought the first one up already?
No, she's
Yeah,
still
this-
giving her
I'm just
introduction.
doing my intro.
Okay,
I
okay.
have
Just
to
making
read
sure.
stuff he wrote. He stayed up all night writing it. So
Weeks ago.
you showed 3 weeks ago, but I didn't have a chance to look at it. I had to do the laundry. You know, you still have to chop wood and carry water, right? You can't do this research all your life. Okay, so this is the ones about the Galactic Federation and Draco Wars. They're based on what CIA whistleblowers said that they read in official documents. The Draco war narrative is consistent with the next group of slides, the ones about what happened on the Earth since a few million years ago. The slides on 450,000 BCE up until now are based on actual data from Zachariah Sitchin, Michael Tellinger, Lloyd Pye, Freddie Silva, and Dr. Sasha Lessin. And you can see all this stuff on InkySpeaks.com.
And
But
Janet.
and Janet
Yeah,
and me.
yeah.
Yeah, I do research too. Believe it or not, girl, and I can do research too. These are all men.
You skipped yourself.
And I even skipped myself. See how programmed we are? Okay, so but it's the whistleblowers are people like
Stuart Swerdlow.
Stuart Swerdlow. He's like Stuart. If you've never heard of Stuart Swerdlow,
I've heard a couple of them
get some of his
on
books.
Gaia. I've seen a couple of their shows on Gaia about some
Yeah,
of the whistleblowers,
books
and some of
better.
them with George Norrie too. I've seen on his show
Yeah.
some of them on George Norrie.
But if for those who still read, details that you're not going to get on Gaia and all the other.
Yeah, or YouTube.
Stuart's book is called The True History of the World.
Well,
The True History of the
he's
World.
got a dozen books, and I started with Stuart Swerdlow and Peter Moon, who wrote all the Montauk books. So recommended read. I should make my list of recommended reading. So
Okay, I wrote that down. I wrote that book.
Peter
down.
Moon. Between the two of them, you got 20 books to read to start going.
It takes me. I read about a 300 or 400 page book in maybe 2 or 3 days. I don't sleep at night, so most of the time I just pick up a book and just read, and I'm just reading until I'm done. Then as soon as I'm done, I'll do a little bit on my website or my podcast. I have so much stuff, backed up that I don't have to spend too much time on just one thing anymore. I can do one thing little by little and get all my stuff out there.
It's a great idea. Right after you've read it, it's fresh in your mind.
Mhm.
That's a very great idea.
Now
Yeah,
we're ready for the next slide.
yeah.
I actually take every book that I read, I take those colored sticky tabs and I put it right there where anything that triggers my interest, something that I am intrigued by reading or something I need to research or whatever the case may be. I'll put something right there and I'll say to myself, hey, I need to look more into this. Or I'll do it right there on the spot and still put this sticky tab there because I actually want to go back and present some type of slideshow like this of every book that I've read.
Yeah, and that's the goal. If we could slow it down, have the discussion, and we'll get through this hopefully in 2 hours. But so Dr. Lessin marks up all of his books. I mean, it's amazing. So we get his copy, so he can mark it up, and he makes all these notes. So and they end up in slideshows and on his website. EnkySpeaks.com is like one of the amazing comprehensive slides.
I've been on that website.
And then I'm working on my thing is Dragon at the End of Time.
We got
Next.
we got a lot in common, Dr. Lessin. I do the same thing that mark my books and I go back and I talk about it. That's exactly how I started writing my articles. I just take whatever I read and be like, okay, let me put this together. And then if I have to update it, I'll make a part two to it. What have I learned since then or something?
Well, and it's partly like when I see things on the internet, and your things were like that for me. Sometimes I see something that you wrote, and it would trigger me, and I get all excited and do something, and it was based on some stimulation. And Michio Kaku stuff does that for me, and several other Robert Reich and several other people that I listen to regularly just sets me right off on what I really need to do.
Mm-hmm. That's how exactly how I am.
So what is this we're looking at?
You were going to go to the next slide. Where
I am. See, it says Sasha.
Oh, thank you. You shifted on.
I did.
Okay, 4 billion years ago, the Draco reptilians attacked the peaceful Lyrans. What are you?
You're crawling into the screen again. Although I'm here now, I started to take me in the screen with. Go ahead, baby.
4 billion years ago, the Draco reptilians attacked the peaceful Lyrans. The Draco reptilians warred with the humanoid Lyran Vegans in what was called the Orion Wars. Now, before the Draco-Lyran War broke out, there used to be cooperative agreements between Vegan settlers, who were humanoids, and local reptilians. And this is in the area of Orion. And so from the get-go, there were already reptilian Dracos and humanoids like us, more or less, that were already getting along. And what we know about, as anthropologists will tell you, whenever different species get next to each other, one of the things they always do is get into sex and make offspring. So already we were friendly with, at least some of our ancestors were friendly with some of the Dracos. Okay.
Wait, I have a question about, first of all, the Orion Wars was the basis of Star Wars, apparently.
I've read that.
Yeah.
I've read that. I actually read that. I actually went back and watched some of the movies just because I've read that you can get some kind of clues to that idea.
The insight. Now, you said that they were copulating, so they're breeding naturally. They're not doing genetically modified hybrids.
That's not really, the reptilians are more difficult than that because they're androgynous and they're able to make babies themselves, but they like to get into sex. So it's a little bit different with them and about how they make babies.
Right. So that's a whole slideshow in itself. How do they procreate and reproduce with each other?
And then there's the Draco women overthrew the Draco males and they assassinated them all. They have their own history too, but that's not what this show's about.
Okay, so we're gonna go. I just want to say because how do we get children, and that's part of why the Greys abduct humans. There's all this research, and that would be another slideshow. Okay, so back to you.
Okay, so the Lyran and Vegan explorers fought the Dracos in the Ring Nebula. They fought over planets, each wanted them themselves. They each attacked each other. The Dracos attacked the Lyran home planets. They killed the Lyrans by the millions. By then, however, most of the Lyrans had already gone to other worlds. Lyrans in the Orion colonies hit the reptilian colonies in Orion, and the Dracos kept striking back. It went on and on. So that the worlds in the Orion planets rebelled against the Draco rulers, and they joined the Lyrans against the Dracos. So, you get all these forces. Stop wiggling it, honey. I can't read. Thank you. Okay, so all these people that were running from the Dracos, who now said, we're at war with these people, they joined something called the Federation of Planets.
Okay.
And they were from, some of the planets were in Lyra group, some were Andromeda, some were the Pleiades, Hyades, and also Yuma. That's Wolf 424. Procon, Tau Ceti, Alpha Centauri, and Epsilon Ariandi. All of these are Lyran Pleiadian in their heritage. Now, the Federation, according to Lamiroy, who is this Australian who knows, brings all this material together, the Federation includes non-physical races as well. It also includes some Syrian groups and organizations from Orion. Civilizations from a parallel universe is what Lamiroy says, called the Koldassians and the Dao civilizations.
Okay.
Some reptilian worlds joined the Federation because they wanted to escape from this Draco Empire. And so they basically, some people were trying to get out of and run as far as they possibly could from all this wars. Okay. But they keep getting dragged into them. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Wait, I just wanted to add something, and maybe Tyrone wants to ask questions too. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just gonna say this fellow Lamiroy, do you know what his source is of his information? Is he a insider whistleblower, or is it channeled? We like to find out, where does the information come from? I just wanted off. Where are you going? Get back here. You're on screen there. Do you know?
No, he's very protective of his stuff. He has a college, and in order to see this, what you really see in detail what he's doing, you've got to pay a bunch of bucks, and so I haven't done it. But his stuff, I checked it against my other sources, and they're consistent. In Horn's book, the case for the reptilian connection, and so all the other sources I checked on, it says the same thing. And so about any of this, I don't know if any of it's real or not. I say, what counts most simplestly for the material we have? What would tie it together? That's Occam's razor, and you cut through stuff with that. It doesn't mean that anything we think about anything is anything more than our thoughts. That's what we got. We got our thoughts, and that's what we're dealing with. And so, there is comprehensive theory that brings it all together, which is the basic non-dualistic theory of symmetry, which is what string theory is based upon. And so that anything there's the opposite of it, and they both have to exist, or they couldn't coexist. And when you have two polarities, which there is of anything, that creates a dimension. And when you span the dimension, you've transcended that dimension. You haven't lost it. It's just that it's part of a bigger whole, and that spirals you out. That's what string theory is, to another universe, to a broader perspective. And it goes on, faster and faster, and it's a lot of fun.
That's interesting.
So this stuff, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's sure fun, and accounts for all kinds of information, and ties things together, and it gives us empirical things that we can look for. Next time the Hubble, or its successor, the other telescope, show us things, we can predict. Yes, now that we can look through a black hole, we can really see what happens on the other side of the singularity, and are there other universes, and we can say all those things. We now have the tool. The Webb is the name of that telescope, incidentally. And so that the point about everything is, dualism means that there's another half that you haven't gotten, because and it's an artificial separation of you and whatever it is you think you ain't, or what you think isn't, because whatever, it's both. It's always both. And that's exactly what quantum theory shows us, that things both are and aren't at the same time, flickering back and forth. And when you start thinking of things that way, it allows you to fully appreciate the present and dig what you've got and not sweat what you've not. It's really interesting.
That is interesting, because everything that I watch, whether it's about on television, it could be like about witches or vampires or reptilians and stuff like that. It all goes back to the Sumerians, and they're always talking about the Sumerians said this, the Sumerians said that. And it's amazing to know that there's ancient texts that actually talk about all this. Like, there's the texts actually say this, and I know that that the first writing system goes to the Sumerians, not because they have the first way of communicating with somebody, but because they put a lot of detail in what they were writing. That's what I've come to learn, is that there's many different ways to communicate and spread information and stuff like that. But like you said, the Pleiades, the Lyrians, the Anunnaki, there's actually text that talks about it. And it's an exciting to read about how they traveled or how they possibly traveled. Um, and then the biggest factor is whether it's real or not. And you're just like, but there's a piece of the puzzle somewhere, and we have to keep reading to understand those pieces of the puzzle. And people should be able to talk amongst each other to bring that information out, because you never know what you might learn. That's very interesting what you said right there.
Well, in the early stuff, which Sitchin didn't discuss very much, there were people here way before the Sumer was only founded after the flood of 13,000 years ago. And the Anunnaki came from Nibiru 450,000 years ago, but way before the Nibiruans came. The Nibiruans were just the royalty from the Syrian Unity kingdom. And if we show the slides, you'll see how it all fits together. But they already had writing. They already had writing. They wrote for each other. They had all kinds of communication. But one of the things they had a big deal about was things that were written that they had to break the seal on, and they read what it says, and so we know they had documents way. And this is before Noah's flood, for example. And Sumer was only founded after Noah's flood. But before Noah's flood, this guy named Galzu came from the Confederation and said, Anu, the king of Nibiru, sent me, and here's the thing, here's his orders. And it said, this is my plenipotentiary, do whatever he says, he's speaking for me. And they're saying that, and so the Sumerians who wrote this after the floods and another 1,000 years said, oh yeah, there was this written stuff before we got our writing. So writing is way earlier than the Sumerians who take credit for it, because there's the most written about it, but there's internal evidence that writing was here a long time.
Yep.
Sasha makes all these wonderful slides. 4 billion years ago, the human Lyrians fled Draco reptilians that hunted them. They were hunting them to either kill or enslaved them into their empire. Wasn't a nice situation. The fleeing Lyrians settled on planets in Orion, Tasseti, Pleiades, Procyon, I think it's pronounced Procyon, Antares, Alpha Centauri, Aquarius star systems. On 110 of these scattered Lyrian settled planets combined forces into the Galactic Federation to fight the Draco invaders. So the Federation is real, apparently. Gene Roddenberry was an insider, and he had real information that he translated. Back in the 50s and 60s, a lot of ways, the only way they could get us out, the information out, is through science fiction.
Okay.
So you have like The Day the Earth Stood Still in 1951, and all these things. These were the early whistleblowers, and all they could do is science fiction. So it's good to pay attention to some of that as well.
I've read that many times, that and it's like I was saying earlier, when I watch a television show about vampires or something like that, or witches, they always mention the Sumerians. A lot of people don't know who the Sumerians are. And when I learned about them, I mean, you learn about all this stuff coming from TV in a way, and don't even realize it. Like, this stuff is in the television shows, the movies and stuff like that. Like the movie Predator, they always showing how the predators were helping build or making the humans build the pyramids and stuff like that. And some people would say that you could relate that to the Anunnaki, like the predators in the movie were Anunnaki, and Arnold Schwarzenegger had to go over there and stop them from taking over the world type stuff. So yeah, that's interesting you say that, because me and my wife always talk about that when something comes up. I'm like, yo, they're talking about the Sumerians, babe, and she'll be like, they are, huh? And then I'll be like, yeah, watch, they're going to say it in a minute. And I will be the first time I watch the show, and eventually they'll pull out, a a cuneiform tablet or something. Like, I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
you ever watched the show Lucifer or something like that. A lot of that was in there too on Netflix from there. So it's very interesting that you say that, because
So
I thought I was.
all these are Anunnaki. The
Mhm,
Sumerian settlement was an Anunnaki settlement. I'm
mhm,
trying to, they made a decision to give us civilization. So
Again,
again, after it got wiped out. So, thank you very much for letting us in on it. But we're always the lower caste class, the slaves, the worker bees. Even if we think we're rich and billionaires, we're still it's still hierarchy. We're still underneath the Anunnaki, and they're behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz thing, and we don't really know who they are, but they walk among us, and they're still here, and they're the ruling power elite above the Queen just died, although she's
mhm.
very much related to this whole. I don't know how much the uppers, uh, what inside information they have, what level that pierces, with
Mhm.
the royals and stuff. But a lot of times they're down low and they're on a need to know basis, so they don't know what's going on
Right, right.
into this research, and then so much of this is colored, so you have to connect the dots and oops, weed through it. Sorry, I skipped through it. So let me just read this part
just
here.
skip this about the Atlans, honey.
Okay, so the Atlans,
Mhm.
the Atlans, who are the Atlans?
Are
They
those the
help
Atlanteans?
the Atlans. The Atlantis is named after, right? They fled to the Pleiades. They
Mhm.
refused to join the Federation. They hope to avoid, they were Switzerland. They hope to avoid fights between the Dracos and restore peaceful farming. It's a peaceful farming civilization they enjoyed before the Dracos invaded. See, the Draco invasion was bad, but it's also good because it created the great diaspora and the settlement of the universe and the galaxies, right? If things are peaceful, people sit still, but
Yep.
they're
Mhm.
so it's destructive and individuals die and all kinds of things. But it actually ends up seeding the universe with more and more life forms and
Mhm.
diversifying creation. What do you want me to do?
The next paragraph.
Okay. So, one group of Lyran survivors rocketed to, and there's a now extinct planet called Maldek in our solar system. And
Mhm.
another closely related group of survivors settled Mars, which was at that time well watered and vegetated with easily breathable air. And then we go down here. All the Draco reptilians hunted the human Lyrans that were settled on Mars and Maldek, and some of our ancestors. What's that say? Maldek.
And Maldek.
Maldek. Some
Some
of
of
our
our
ancestors from there, some brown, some white, created the Galactic Federation. I have interviewed hundreds of whistleblowers. There are blue people, pink
Yeah.
people, orange people. So just get over it. They come in any color you could imagine. Some of them are rainbow. They
Mhm.
when they move, their scales move, and they reflect different colors like a chameleon. So just get over
I
it.
think I already covered this part.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Next slide. Oh, any questions on this slide
Although this is
about
kind
the?
of important. You should do it, actually.
Okay. Millions of years ago, humans lived.
I mean, don't do it like you're reading. Stop like you're talking
Ah,
to somebody, okay?
we're coaching you.
And
Millions
look,
of
I
years
do the
ago.
same thing. When I do my podcast by myself, sometimes I write it down like how I want to talk, and then I just make a little adjustments right there. I read that's exactly how I do it.
Okay.
So humans who lived on the constellation Lyra's planets, the Lyrans, were Caucasians. They look like Caucasians on Earth nowadays, but taller. And
Giants,
the
possibly.
Lyran Caucasians colonized Vega, and on Vega they found an interbred with brown-skinned people, the Vegans. Okay, you covered this, yeah. How they went into our DNA, so when they got to Earth,
Right.
the first hybrid master clone master, Donald Brown. So the Lyran parents, who we call Anunnaki, were phenotypically white. Okay, okay. So Um, Adam and Tiamat, his mate, both carried recessive brown genes of both DNA and mDNA from the Lyran descendants between the Anunnaki that are indeed inherent, manifest, or latent in our genome to this day. Next slide. Your turn. You have me reading this whole thing. Your turn. Next. Go for it.
Okay. So some of the Lyrans went to Mars. It had a really great environment, and another beautiful planet that's now extinct called Maldek.
Okay.
The Dracos took a planet-sized comet covered with ice. They hollowed it out. It's had a rocky core, and they armed it with particle beam weaponry, stocked it with all kinds of things for their long journey because they knew exactly where they were going. One of the things they stocked was dinosaurs, which was the main food that they were bringing with them. They steered this gigantic but camouflage warship toward Solaris, toward our sun. Next slide.
I have a question. You said
Okay.
the Igigi was on planet Mars also, right?
No, that's much later. That's the
That's
Igigi
much
were
later?
Yeah, we're back.
The Anunnaki haven't even created themselves. Haven't even occupied Jupiter yet.
This is ancient. Like
the people that became the ancestors of the Anunnaki at this point were in the Syrian group, and they were the royals there, and they were trying to create a monarchy where they were the bosses, and no one else wanted to do it, and so that's when they went for Nibiru. So we'll get to that.
That makes sense now. That makes sense.
People like so it's a different time. People very much like us. The refugees. Some of them settled on this really nice planet called Maldek. It was the fourth.
You're bouncing.
I'm bouncing.
Okay, so we don't have the exact time frame. We don't know.
Right.
Billions or hundreds.
No, it wasn't billions, honey.
Millions. We don't know what year it was, even how you reckon time, because it's time system. But this is ancient. This is pre settlement of the Earth. Okay,
and that makes sense to me because my impression, like I knew about the Pleiades and stuff like that, but I never knew exactly how old the Anunnaki were compared to all the rest of them. Like when I read, just the information I've read so far was mostly about that the Anunnaki came after a group, but I didn't know exactly which group they came after. So that fills in a piece of the puzzle for me on realizing, how things started, because I'm always trying to find the origins of something.
Cool. So this is if you follow this thing, it'll explain some phenomena or some things that we observe in our solar system, like the Kuiper belt of. Go back, honey.
Okay.
So on Maldek has a greater density than Mars.
Okay.
So the Maldekans, these people that were there, were big, muscular people. They had repeatedly had a really much more aggressive attitude. And then they started making threats to the other Lyran refugees nearby. The planet next door was Mars. Maldek was between Jupiter and Mars, and they started threatening and okay, let's do the next slide.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Move that light down, then it won't be. Yeah, it won't be in your face there. Okay, because you seem to be.
Okay, so when this comet came, is a little aside. First on the Lyran humans on a planet called Apex.
Okay.
And they said to the Apex people, "Listen, we're going to give you guys a real chance. You can join our empire, and you'll be proud to help. And if you don't, we'll blow you to bits." And so the people of Apis said, well, let's call a council meeting, get the people, let's talk about what we should do. And their hesitancy was fatal. And so the Dracos just blew their planet to pieces. But some of them escaped, and some of them went underground. But the ones that finally got off kept being chased, and eventually they became the Greys. But that's another story. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
So
gonna remember that.
so as the Maldekans were just being, they could see this gigantic thing. Don't look up, coming, but they were looking up, and they said, "Oh my gosh, this comet!" They thought it was a comet because it was covered with ice. Is coming right at us, and so they messaged their the people they've been threatening. Hey, please let us. It'd be like the Russians say, "Let us into to Ukraine. We got to get away from Putin." But that's exactly what was happening. These guys, please let us come. And so the Martians said, "You guys have been threatening us, but okay, we got a weapon, a shield from the coup, from some other people. We bought it, and we also have fallout shelters deep underneath. You can come and shelter with us."
Okay.
Next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so there's two theories about what happened to Maldek. One of them is that they had this particle beam weapon and they blasted it. The other one is just the gravity of their planet. What happened?
Here, why don't you drive?
Okay.
All you have to do is click the little.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So the gravity of this planet was enough to shatter the planet. I think it was probably a weapon, as subsequent things will show you.
Okay.
Anyway, that's the other way it could have happened. Because they knew exactly where they're going, as you'll see.
Okay.
And the shattered parts of this Maldek formed the Kuiper belt of asteroids, the one that's further out than the ones we're usually meet between Mars and Earth. So this is another belt that you have to pass through first if you're going to or from the Earth. And bigger pieces of Maldek became moons of Saturn and also Jupiter. They became moons. They were big pieces. Then the Draco Death Star came, as we call it, came right near Mars. And the Martians, of course, were prepared. They were underground. But nevertheless, Mars used to be beautiful. It was like Earth. Trees and waters and lakes, and we'll see later on it still had lakes for a long time. But this took a lot of the surface water off and a lot of the ice off. But underneath, the Martians and their guests were safe from that. But they had to live together, and that was not pleasant for them.
Okay.
They started, quarreling, and it was getting heavier and heavier under there. So they were having a hard time with each other. We got this guy to model this for us. Okay, hey, Jen's going to talk here.
You say you know this so well. Just tell, and then we'll interject questions here and there. We'll raise our finger.
Yeah, well, I'll do this.
Okay, next this thing is going. Right? It's coming from outside. It's coming in closer. It blows Maldek up. It goes past Mars. It draws off a lot of the surface stuff, but not all of it from Mars, thins out the atmosphere. And then it approaches Earth. Earth at the time was just covered with water. There was aquatic life. There was all kinds of, but it was totally, and it was water, mist, and steam above it. And it was just, but this large body, it's way bigger than Earth, sucked off enough water so two continents now emerged. The continent of Lemuria, in the Pacific area, and it's also called Mu, and the continent of Atlantis.
Okay.
There's a slide that shows you. Yes, Janet.
So that's that phrase in the Bible that says the waters of heaven mixed with the waters of earth, and that's how that got translated. I should pull that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. This slide.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Okay, so what? Just tell us what it is. I
just did.
Oh, you did this.
If you look at the map, okay, Janet.
Okay, there's, oh, I see. So you're saying that Lemuria and Atlantis.
We know exactly
emerged.
where Atlantis was now. It's quite clear that it
Okay.
was, we know where Lemuria
Okay,
was.
so where was Atlantis?
Atlantis was off the coast of Northeast Africa. Plato is completely right about where it was. And, the coastlines have changed so much, and we'll get to that as we progress in a
Okay.
systematic way
And
through this.
Lemuria was in the Pacific.
That's right. It was, and we'll get to what the remains of Lemuria are.
Okay,
And you can see the thing in blue is the land continents that we know about.
Okay, very
Right,
good. Thank
right,
you for
right.
that. Awesome.
Right. And that, you know, I've read that too, the
This
same thing.
Cool. This comet thing, it wasn't really a comet. It was a hollowed out rocky planet covered with ice, and it directed by internal mechanisms and a huge settlement inside. It gets to the place we know as Venus, and the sun melts off the ice. And there's 7 Draco casts, and they make separate domes on the surface, and they all have a function. And they get together and they start building. They're going to take over the solar system. They know that the Martians survive, and they know that the Galactic Federation of Lyrians is going to say that they own this solar system. They're saying, no way, we're going to settle it too. And what they did is they hollowed out the moon, a artificial satellite, stocked it with what they would need in order to occupy Earth. And we'll see the next slide.
I have a question on that. So you're saying that it went and settled as Venus. So it's the planet we know now as Venus.
Yeah, between Mercury and Earth. That's where they that's where they went in. That's where it says entrance. That's where they went in, and they popped up these domes, and they have these casts that stay separate from each other, and they have different functions. And the engineers built. Yes, Janet.
So this is what Velikovsky was talking about back in the 50s. Have you either of you read anything about Velikovsky?
What do you want to say about Velikovsky?
Well, Velikovsky said that the Venus was, came in from outside and settled in place. So this is so that these informations are coordinating with each other.
This is a blown up photograph from the things that our informant gave us directly from the.
Okay, so anyway, next slide.
Okay, so now the moon has been engineered, so it doesn't. It's way big. It stabilizes the oceans. It's made to hold it. It had their dinosaurs. That was their food. They had everything they need. And the first place they went for was Lemuria. Was where they wanted to start.
So the moon allows life to be to form on Earth, right? To be more stabilized.
Yeah, you need it for fishing. I'm a fisherman, and when the moon is full, that's the best time to fish.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's interesting about the hollow moon, because they say that when objects from space hit the moon, it's always the same depth. Like for some reason it's always the same. And then they also did like vibration testing, like they do for earthquakes and stuff, and find out that it took maybe, I can't remember, maybe a couple of hours that it was still vibrating because it was so hollow, and you can still feel the vibration in it. That's interesting, because a lot of people that I've read from say that the moon was either one or two things happened. Either it was transported with whoever brought it with them, or it was created on the spot for like their headquarters, like a hidden mothership almost type thing, where they had everything, that they could like a base camp, almost like the main base camp for anything was right there. So yeah.
There's two very equally plausible things about it. I took Janet's hand off the go ahead, because I want to talk about this one for a little bit. Okay. So the one is the one that Sitchin said that the Sumerian and Dubskar wrote down for him, which was that the moon was each planet that was born in in our solar system had a pair. They're Uranus and Saturn and so forth. And so Earth had already gotten to the point where it was birthing a twin planet that was about to go off in its own orbit called Tiamat. And this, but before that, Nibiru came and bumped Tiamat. Piece of Tiamat became Earth, and the other part became the moon. And so that's their explanation, and it accounts for the data just as well. So there's these different things about just what the moon was about, and so they're both equally plausible, I think. So the Dracos settled in Lemuria.
Okay.
This is and
those were the reptilians.
These are these are the reptilian Dracos eat these things. Okay. They're not intimidated by them. They have techno control. They just take what they want. Okay. So story goes. Right. Yeah, so the Galactic Federation said, "Hey, we're not going to give up Earth and this whole solar system. Get out of our solar system."
Right.
And so the Galactic Federation got certain groups there among the refugees to the Pleiades. There was this one group called the Atlans, and they were warriors. They absolutely could not stand the fact that they were running and their people were getting killed. They wanted to fight Dracos, and they were a pain in the neck to the people in the Pleiadian Council who just wanted to do peace. And so they begged the Federation, "Hey, these guys want to fight, get them off our hands." And the same thing happened with the Maldek. Remember, they're underground with Mars. They're starting to, they're way bigger and stronger. They're starting to assert themselves. The Martians are getting really uptight. And the Federation said, "Oh, we know just what to do with these Maldekans." And they took the Maldekans and sent them to the Gobi Desert. And they sent the Atlans to Atlantis. Okay. Yeah. Now, as soon as the Atlans start running into dinosaurs,
I love that Tomb Raider. I love that.
They are not. Our ancestors were not helpless. They knew how, they shot these big things with guns, killed them, and that really made the Dracos uptight. So they counterattacked. And there was these great wars, and the warriors just drove the Dracos ultimately underground. Okay. So we have these forces coming from the Gobi. Everybody in their planet and their whole planet was destroyed. Boy, they wanted revenge. And we have the Atlans who are just itching for a fight. They're natural warriors. So the settlers from Mars took their spacecraft and they were firing on the Lemurian space. And finally, what happens is that the Dracos went underground in Lemuria. The Atlans chased them wherever they were and had some of this way of shooting through the land itself, and they eventually sunk the whole planet. However, the whole continent of Lemuria. However, parts of it stuck up. Hawaii stuck up. All the Polynesians, Japanese, and Southeast Asian islands are the peaks of what was once this continent of Lemuria, where the Dracos had first settled, and that was their claim. The whole system should be ours.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to go on Google Earth and look up like the area that you just mentioned and see how if I can see more of the land itself.
Perfect.
So I'm definitely
it's really interesting. If you look at the literature now, we know what's under the sea, all kinds of soundings.
Right.
Same about Atlantis. They pretty well established. Plato was right. He said that's where it is. But of course, its boundaries have changed. The coastlines have changed. all that stuff that's really documented with really great science is the work by Freddie Silva, where he really looks at the coastlines changes and the ocean changes at different times. And it all ties together. And we have plenty of time to go through these. We'll get to how this happened. But in any case, the Federation started winning. Yeah, the reptilians were gone from Venus. They were gone from the moon. Then humans occupied the moon too. And the reptilians who lived fled to the hollow earth. The
And
evidence
that's a very interesting topic right there. Hollow Earth.
the evidence for, and I've got a whole series on this. The evidence for hollow Earth is overwhelming. The Earth is like a Swiss cheese full of caverns, and you'll see that there's tunnels that connect these different caverns, and there's internal sources of heat and all kinds of things. And so reptilians have been there for a long time, but they're running under the earth, and but the Atlans aren't going to let them burrow from underneath. The Atlanteans, that's what the Atlans became. They became Atlanteans, are after them. So one of the things really they wound up, the Atlanteans wound up going after the Dracos underneath, and they wound up sinking their own planet. They just messed with everything in the pulse. Continent. Yes. The whole thing flipped over and so forth. Anyway, the people in Andromeda got OD'd on this everlasting fight between the Dracos and the humans for Earth. I mean, just cool, especially you're disrupting everything that we need to for our travel. And so why don't we take different areas? There's other ET groups that have been visiting Earth for quite a while now. The Andromedans said, we want to come to Hatona, one of our planets in Andromeda, and we're going to help you work this out, like Palestinians and Israelis. But the people were sick of wars already.